Veed, Gullak, Pursuit of Happiness, and Jersey. These are the 4 titles that come up in the title credits of 3BHK. This says that this film is inspired by these 4 films, and generally, not many people would add these titles to the credits, but that's the kind of filmmaker Sri Ganesh is. Vanakkam and welcome to Cinema Express. This is Avinash Ramachandran. In this video review episode, we are going to look at Sri Ganesh 3BHK starring SIddharth, Sarathkumar, Devayani, Meetha, Chaithra, and a bunch of other actors. The middle class dream is something that is relentless. Every time you think of upgrading yourself, there is something else that comes in between. Every time you want to figure out a way to become bigger in life, there is some other obstacle coming in way that doesn't make you reach that goal. It's relentless. It's almost like the proverbial light at the end of the tunnel. But the thing is, you see that light, you know there is light, you know all you imagine is going to be light, but still you have to do so much to even reach where the light rays can fall on. You have to do so much to even think of where you have to go to. And it just takes one generation to change it, but then the mentality of the middle class is such that it's still a talking point of how to elevate our living standards. And that is how, and that is what is all about 3BHK, which is a very, very simple and straightforward film about a family that wants to buy a house. The family's patriarch is played by Sarathkumar, his wife Devayani. He has 2 kids played by Siddharth and Meetha, who are very, very, they say it's a very self-sufficient family. They are away from their extended relatives who are in a comparatively better position than theirs. And still, they have that ego, they have a so-called inferiority complex, or they have to prove to the others that they are well off or they are capable of buying a house. As Sharat Kumar's Vasudevan puts very, very well, in this world, a house means respect. The fact that I can own a house that's my own, where I can decide what's going to happen, what will be going on the walls, can I use the terrace whenever I want, can I use the water whenever I want, would I have electricity backup, all those things. What you want to do matters only if the place is yours, and that is exactly what 3BHK wants to tell. But unfortunately, in the film, there are few things that didn't really work for me, and primarily among them is the fact that I didn't feel that this family was that well connected. As in, of course, everyone has each other's backs. Of course, everyone ensures that one of them is always happy at every moment. As in, Siddharth plays a character who isn't really studious. As in, he doesn't want to be an IT engineer, but Sharath Kumar says that IT is the future, and it's better if you do an IT job and get an IT job and get the IT salary. You know, the whole IT boom during the late 2000s and early 2010s that ensured every kid in every family wanted to become an engineer, especially a computer science based. So that is the kind of house that they have. And then the sister, played by Meetha, is someone who is always sacrificing for the family. As in, she's an excellent student. She someone who scores 93% in class 10, as opposed to Siddharth, who I think just manages to pass in class 12. But still, their savings go into ensuring that the guy gets the best college. Of course, she's ready to sacrifice, but she also does an excellent education by doing BCom, and everything is right. But somehow, except Siddharth and Meetha's characters interacting and they having a decent chemistry, and how we see the sister standing up for the brother every single time, except that equation, we don't really feel there is a lived in experience that the 4 share. Devyani is almost non existent throughout the film, except by just standing there and giving those understanding stares, or reacting to what's happening. We don't really see her do anything except a few things. It's almost like a typical filmy mother that we've always seen in the 80s and the 90s, where the patriarch will say things which, of course, is with the permission and the information given to the wife, but then she doesn't really have much of a say. She hardly has a few dialogues in the film, and those things don't really gel, because if we don't really are convinced that this family is together, the film's premise doesn't really work. But even though that is a slight flaw in the film, the idea that something to call home, something to call yours, something to just ensure that you have something that you can go back literally home to, is a very, very relatable topic. Imagine every single year you have to change your house. Every 2-3 years, depending on where you're going to work, where you're going to study, you want to change your geolocation completely. You'll suddenly, let's say, for a lesser rent, you'll have to stay a little farther than where you are previously staying, which means a longer time in transport, which means a longer time away from the home, which means a longer time away from your family. And these things also impact the kind of family you are. So I don't, so although did think that the family system in this film is particularly not very convincing, it's also a reflection of how such a family will not really exist in so much of happiness if there is no let's say no time spent together. Even in this film, whenever they meet together, the conversation is always about future, always about the house. We don't know if they have those moments of sweet nothings, whether Siddharth talks about his girlfriends or love life to his family, or even his friends. We don't see any of their friends coming home. Those things are probably things that could have been explored better, because the idea of staying in a rented house, we've always seen it as an obstacle for a lot of social interactions. But even then, we've also seen that being a hotbed of wonderful relationships being formed. We don't see that happening. Again, it's also a reflection of how, if someone is always being a nomad, how will they find these interactions? How will they find these relationships? How will they find families that will stick together for so long with each other, the neighbors being very friendly? You will not find these things if you're constantly moving. So this dichotomy is something that both worked and didn't for me. It's almost like the idea of staying in a rented house not for too long. But the thing with the film is that a lot of conversations are revolving around the idea of the house. Probably that is why the pursuit of happiness comes into play here, because it is one relentless challenge after the other. Siddharth's schooling, Siddharth's college, Meetha's schooling, college, her marriage, his marriage, Sarathkumar's character unable to upgrade to what the computer generation. He's been an accountant throughout his decent parts of adult life. Suddenly he's asked to adapt to the computer, and he still does. He learns. There is a wonderful scene where he comes home with a box of sweets saying, hey, guys, I passed my exam, things like that. But then we don't really get a feel of the family apart from their common idea of wanting to have a home. As in, this idea is so much ingrained into the film that even when there is a romantic scene between Siddharth and Chaitra, even then the conversations are about the home. Even when Meetha has this whole meltdown about what's happening in her life, the conversation is still surrounding the point of having a house. But then I've seen houses where once the girl gets married into another family and she moves on, there is the family and the son who still remains in their own house. They rebuild the house without even thinking of giving a room to that sister because she's not theirs anymore. Those things have been tackled very, very beautifully. Also, I liked how the timelines worked in the film. Be it the 2007 when he finishes school and enters the college, there is the cyclone reference, there is the IT boom reference. There is also, I like how Sharad Kumar's and Devayani treat Meetha's character as in, I've not seen a film where the father says to the daughter, go and drop my son and come back. These are very, very nifty touches that really work for the film. I also like the way the Chaitra's character is introduced and the way it's reintroduced and the way it's organically woven into the narrative. So those things are actually good things that happen in 3 BHK. But the whole point of the house being such an important factor is understandable. It is relatable. But the point is, it doesn't really reflect your emotions, mainly because it's not that we are interacting with the characters in the film. It's almost like we're interacting with the idea of a house that we have in our own mind. It isn't like that we are invested too much into seeing if Vasudevan and family will find a house. It's more like we thinking of the people in our lives, the house hunts we might have done, the idea of a rented life that we all might have lived. It's more of that. It's that relatability factor is definitely there. But as a film, the 3 BHK slightly errs because it's too staged. As in, there's nothing organic that happens. It's almost like this family can't catch a break. It's like the character of Arjun from Rhythm, where the his mother says this character can have certain good things in his life. He deserves more goodness. That's what happens in the entire family. I almost felt like this family needed a break, and that break almost happens very, very rarely. Every single time there is a slight glimmer of hope, it's extinguished due to some reason or the other. Again, there is this whole, the film also talks about the idea of pushing an agenda, as in pushing an agenda onto your children. They say that children should not live the dreams of their parents, and that ideation is wonderful. The genesis of the idea is very good. The exploration of it is actually very, very nice. But suddenly, it's almost like all the resolutions happens towards the last act. It's all very crammed. Everything that the struggle that we have been seeing for so long suddenly becomes into a very it converts into a simple straightforward process that suddenly finds its fruition. So I think 3 bhk needed, I might be in the minority here, but I think 3 bhk needed a lot more melodrama, as in every time the film goes into an overtly sentimental zone, the film, I think, doesn't want to go too much into and pulls back its punches. Probably that is why the emotional connect with the characters didn't happen. We connect with their plight, but not the characters, and that's mainly because we don't really get that last emotional punch in any of those scenes. So, the thing is, Siddharth's character has a very up and down kind of an arc. It's very interesting to see what the kind of reactions he does to the situations that happen around him. These are not very generic reactions per se. They are very interesting circumstances that makes him do a little different things. But then we have seen such characters in our films for so long right now. The disgruntled IT employee who wants to quit his job because of the entire system not being in his favor, or him being just bored with the idea of just copying and pasting or not being competent enough. But I enjoyed the fact that this film does touch upon the idea of being average. The film does touch upon the idea of being a middling person. Not every person is destined for greatness, but the film doesn't say that he's not great or is not deserving of success, but it says that in the wrong profession, in the wrong space, there's only so much you can move ahead. And I thought this was a wonderful exploration of the idea of what it means to be successful. The film talks about what really it takes to be successful in your own eyes and in the eyes of the society, how important it is to have a family that backs you up. It's very intriguing to see that the idea of home is different for a lot of people. Because after the film, I wasn't sure if Siddharth or Meetha really wanted a house for themselves, or they wanted to just, let's say, fulfill the dream of their father. But then they reach there. They reach there in a very longish way that is filled with hurdles. It's almost like telling you a middle class dream shouldn't be a house, but it's also telling you that a middle class dream of a house can be realized. But looking at the market right now, looking at the kind of housing loans that are happening, looking at the kind of pushbacks that even the protagonist of this film get, are we really sure that this is the way forward for a middle class dream, or is it time to redefine the middle class dream? There are a lot of questions that are asked. I came back with more questions than answers, but then it made me think a house is still a house, as in a house becomes a home with the family, right? And if the family of 3 BHK was more convincing, was more relatable, was more emotionally connected with me, I probably would have been more connected with 3 BHK itself. But then there is no question about the film telling a story which is very, very important. A film that tells you that a relentless pursuit can have positive results. A film that tells you that if you are sure about what you want, things will turn into your favor. A film that tells you that why don't you want to restart your life from scratch at whatever time possible. This film is still an underdog story, but it is about a hero. Who is the hero is the question. Is it Sarathkumar, whose life is constantly, trying to be better, trying to do better by his family, trying to get that coveted house? Is it Siddharth, who is trying to understand where he stands in his own life, what he wants in his life, whose dream is he following, does he have a dream at all? Is it the story about Meetha, who is always sacrificing and waiting for an opportunity to tell to the world that she wants what she wants and she will not stop anywhere before getting it? Is it about Devayani, who is the silent matriarch who doesn't really express her wishes expressively, but probably has it deep within herself to, be more than just the wife or just the mother? We don't know of her family, we don't know what she wants. Probably that could have been a story too. So, as the narrative goes, what we understand is what makes a house a home is the family, and what stops 3 BHK from becoming something really, really, really good is that we are convinced of the house but not the home. Hope you like this review, and if you did, please like, share, and subscribe to Cinema Express, and do let us know what you thought about the review and the film in the comment section. And until we meet in the next episode, this is your friendly neighborhood critic Avinash Ramachandran signing off. Tata!